Batman Arkham is, in a great many ways, a tremendous achievement in the gaming medium. When Rocksteady's first entry in the full game series launched in 2009, boasting a gorgeous combination of Metroid-style exploration and classic third-person combat, it proved to be redefining, and rightly went on to launch a franchise of its own. Today, Batman Arkham is one of the most recognisable depictions of the Batman mythos, with the series having branched out into film, various merchandise, and even the comics themselves. It's a powerhouse of a brand. But with that in mind, where has it been for the last 3 years? Not a peep has been heard from Warner Bros. Montreal, the current custodians of the Arkham license, and Rocksteady themselves are widely presumed to be working on a game centered around the Man of Steel himself, Superman. The simple truth of the matter, however, is that Arkham isn't the darling it once was. Finding consensus amongst the series fans, who regularly debate the quality of Arkham Origins and Arkham Knight, is nigh impossible. Once you consider the development issues that have ostensibly blighted WB Games and the development of another Bat title as well, one does have to ask the question, where did it all go wrong? With open worlds, behind-the-scenes changes, and a franchise gone AWOL, it's time for Ewan, to discuss how one of gaming's biggest franchises, and one of my absolute favourites, lost all of its momentum. Number 5. Where it all began. Utilising the talents of Batman animated series alumni Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill as Batman and Joker, as well as writer Paul Dini, Arkham Asylum managed to craft a unique yet familiar version of Gotham and set about making the Dark Knight experience the longest night of his career. Trapped in Arkham Asylum with most of his rogues gallery, Rocksteady's first Batman game is die-hard in superhero form. It's also aged like wine, combining aspects of stealth, fighting, and exploration into a wonderful concoction today known as the Arkham formula. It lacks challenge in parts, that much is true, and the climax takes a totally unnecessary turn, but Asylum is still the most solid of all the Arkham games, benefiting from the narrow, more linear approach to storytelling that its successors would later divest. As a package, Asylum is just incomparable. The environments are spectacular, the story intriguing, and the voice acting impressive. It's the ultimate Batman experience, but while its semi-linear nature would inevitably spark calls for a sequel to aim for a bigger and better locale, Arkham Island was claustrophobic for a reason, and the all-in-one night trope helped elevate the tension the environment already possessed. Why was only one of these elements repeated for its sequels, prequels, and spin-offs? Arkham Asylum is far from the only great Arkham game out there, but as Rocksteady re-entered the mythos in 2011 and then in 2015, it often felt as though the series was taking one step forward, only to take two back shortly after. Number 4. Open Worlds Collide. Arkham City is a fine sequel and an even finer game, but as is the case with so many titles, films, and even comic books, bigger doesn't always mean better. Pre-release, Arkham City looked to be bringing back all the things players loved most about Asylum. Paul Dini was returning as writer, Conroy and Hamill reprised their roles as Batman and the Joker respectively, and though Arlene Sorkin retired from the Harley Quinn role beforehand, Tara Strong looked to be a fine replacement as the villainess. Throw in Hugo Strange as the apparent main adversary, a plot where Joker is slowly being killed by the drug he consumed at the end of Asylum, and a world twice the size of its predecessor, and City should have been the perfect follow-up to 2009's cult classic. Only it wasn't. Not quite. Arkham City may have improved in pretty much every way in terms of gameplay, offering playable characters aplenty, new gadgets and combat maneuvers, and twice the amount of content as its predecessor, but it took a narrative hit. The premise of Hugo Strange having uncovered Batman's true identity was completely wasted. A random romance between Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul was shut in halfway through, and while the Joker twist itself was particularly effective, the lasting impression of City's story is one of wasted opportunities. It's also worth pointing out the rapid escalation of open-world gameplay. Arkham City boasts a larger environment at the expense of Asylum's unique atmosphere, and though both worlds are equally intricate, oozing with character and detail, there is something to be said about how a change of genre impacted Arkham's development. City is still a wonderful game, and next to Asylum is the next best received entry in the series. But in discerning Arkham's apparent decline, the introduction of the open world, and those narrative decisions, are important to consider. Number 3. A fanbase divided. When it was announced that the follow-up to Arkham City would be a prequel, not a sequel, and that Rocksteady Studios wouldn't be involved, fans were initially skeptical. The London-based developers had made Batman their own, and with Warner Bros. Eager to capitalise on the brand fully, their baby was shipped off to another studio where a different kind of Batman title would be made. That title would eventually become Arkham Origins, one of the last generation's most misunderstood releases, and a game few at the time were really willing to give a chance. Despite the fact the game boasts the best story in the series, the title debuted to a mixed reception and endured a frosty aftermath, with many unwilling to acknowledge the genuine innovations Montreal brought to the series, the best of which involved a complete overhaul of detective mode, which had, until that point, been utilised purely as a crutch for players to spot enemies in the title's stealth sections. By this point, however, cracks in the Arkham formula were becoming apparent. While improvements were made to the series' stylistic free-flow combat, with Origins even boasting the best boss battles of the franchise, stealth remained a walk in the park. The entry also drew criticism for its open world, which lacked the detail of its predecessors, and seemed to lack any signs of life at all, actually, with Gotham having been evacuated on Christmas Eve as a freak snowstorm engulfs the city. Convenient. Those issues aside, Origins was unjustifiably railroaded by fans for the fact that A, it wasn't developed by Rocksteady, and B, it was seemingly responsible for delaying the resolution of Arkham City's unresolved plot threads. Yes, it had its flaws, but the introduction of the Batcave, the genuine attention paid to boss battles, and the efforts made to flesh out the world all proved to be invaluable contributions to the series. In the end, it didn't matter. Arkham's fanbase fractured, and Origins was subsequently, and erroneously, ignored in Virtuosa's return to Arkham Remaster. Bummer. Number 2. A baffling change of direction. Batman Arkham Knight looks and plays unlike any other action title, is bursting with content, and finally gave players the opportunity to roam around Gotham City in the Batmobile. The stage was set, truly, for a masterful conclusion to one of the most beloved trilogies of the decade. But while there are countless reasons to laud Arkham Knight, including its interesting Return of the Joker, Death in the Family hybrid retelling of Jason Todd's return, the story was bad. Dini exited the project early on, and the misdirection deployed in the title's marketing came back with a vengeance. Throughout Arkham Knight's pre-release, Rocksteady maintained that the eponymous Arkham Knight was a brand new creation, not Jason Todd, and most certainly not Joker. So when it transpired that the character in question was the second boy wonder, there was something of an anticlimax to the revelation. Not only that, but after reiterating for months that Joker was truly gone, going so far as to have the player cremate his corpse during the opening act, it soon revealed that Bats is infected with some Joker blood of his own, and that he has his own little version of the Clown Prince to keep him company throughout the story. The payoff was worth it, but these narrative decisions were only exacerbated further by the fact that many of the city's dangling threads were dealt with in an unsatisfying way. The worst culprit being Hush, who only stars in one mission and is subsequently locked away in the GCPD for the rest of the story's duration. Factor in a tank-like Batmobile, an ending that peddled every Bat cliche going, another evacuated location, and a backlash surrounding the game's post-release content, and Rocksteady's departure from the Bat brand was far from the fairy tale ending fans had initially hoped. Number 1. A giant in limbo. To blame the series' prolonged absence on Arkham Knight would, however, be quite disingenuous. Knight was a critical darling upon release and wowed in equal measure in terms of sales, and with Rocksteady set to explore a different path of the DC universe, the blame, if there even is any to be partitioned, lies squarely in Warner Bros. Court. We've known for a long time now that Origins developers are working on something, but what that something is has changed drastically these last 5 years. First, it was reported that a Suicide Squad spin-off was being fast-tracked, picking up immediately where Origins left off by having the player assume control of Deathstroke in a game that could also be played cooperatively. According to Kotaku's Jason Schreier, however, the project was binned in 2016 after failing to impress their parent company, with a replacement title having been lined up shortly thereafter. This newer game was said to have been developed with the Batman Beyond style premise in mind, as players assume the role of Bruce Wayne's son, Damian, with the Bat Cycle being used as the primary method of transportation. This too, however, was seemingly cancelled, but Montreal haven't stopped there. 5 years of frustration be damned. Now it looks as though Montreal are working on a genuine sequel to Origins, one that will expand upon the Court of Owls Easter eggs and depict the origin of Dick Grayson's Robin. Those hoping for an announcement at any of the industry's yearly events, however, have been left disappointed, and it looks as though it'll be a long time before Arkham re-emerges once more.